Hello everyone, Eric Chappelle here, Community Evangelist for Autodesk, and I'm happy to announce that we are bringing back, at least for today, the Dave and Dan show from quite a long time ago. If you hear a little background noise, that's because I am broadcasting live from the DBIA Design Build Institute of America conference in Charlotte, North Carolina. We've got a nice crowd of people around who are also going to be enjoying the webcast along with all of you today. Before we get into our webcast, I wanted to talk a little bit about our community and our webcast series. So we do this twice a month, first and third Wednesdays of the month, and the ultimate goal really is just to bring the users and our product team closer together. So that's the goal, and I think today is a wonderful example of that. You're going to talk to Dave and Dan, of course, who are ultimately really responsible for what's going on in these two products. Our next webcast, just so you know, is going to be on UAS or drone workflows. We're going to talk about Recap, InfraWorks 360, Civil 3D. Actually, George Hatch is going to be our guest presenter, and he's a very knowledgeable and a huge advocate of this workflow, so it's going to be a really exciting webcast for that. Another thing to know is that we are changing up our webcast series, and this is kind of the inaugural session where we're going to combine the InfraWorks 360 and Civil 3D and whatever products happen to be in the mix. For example, the next one is going to involve some Recap and maybe some other products as well. But this has become a civil product webcast series instead of strictly InfraWorks 360. So there's going to be stuff in here for all of our civil infrastructure customers and anyone interested in that field and in technology in that field. So please spread the word to your Civil 3D friends as well as all of your InfraWorks 360 friends. I'm going to do a quick poll here. We do this every session, and we're trying to get an idea of the InfraWorks 360 adoption level. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll. And if you wouldn't mind, please provide your answer as to your usage level with InfraWorks 360. We've seen a really nice progression down through the ranks here. As you can see, the responses range from not even having it installed to regularly using it on some projects to not being able to live without it. So it's a really, things have really been moving in the right direction as far as adoption of the product. I see about 3/4 of you have voted, so I'll leave the poll open for a few more seconds and then we'll close it down. All right, and the winner is, we've got a pretty even spread across the middle. Right now, the winner is, I've installed it and played with it a few times, so that's great. We've got a lot of new users on the line. And also, the second place is I regularly use it on some projects, so that's awesome. I'm going to close that down. Let's continue with our presentation. A little bit about the InfraWorks 360 community. This is kind of a central hub where you can go for all kinds of good stuff. The forum, idea station, the gallery if you want to see what other users are up to. And you can see recordings of previous webcasts, including this one, which I'm recording now, and we'll be posting up there by the end of the week. And just tons and tons of good stuff here as it relates to InfraWorks 360. I always put this statement up there just in case we end up covering something that's of a preview nature or a labs nature. Not sure if Dave or Dan are going to get into any of that today, but if we do, just know that anything you see that's preview or labs is not a promise of something to be delivered in the future. And really, unless you see it in the product, there's no guarantee that it's going to be there. So don't make any purchasing decisions based on anything that's preview or labs. Ask lots of questions. Myself and Tim Yaris from the product team are going to be standing by. If you have questions, please add them to the questions panel in your GoToWebinar interface. Unfortunately, we can't open the phone lines because there are so many of you. In fact, today we've got 175 people logged in right now, so we've got a nice big group, which is great, but it also means that we can't open the phone lines. So type your questions in the questions pane, and we will either answer them there or maybe break in on Dave or Dan and ask one of those guys to answer for you. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Dan Just a second.
Okay.
Dan, the floor is all yours. Take it away.
All right. So can you see my screen, Eric?
Yes, I can.
All right, great. Thanks, Eric. So thanks everyone for joining. Great to be meeting with you today. And I'm here with Dave Simeone, so Senior Product Manager for Civil 3D. And this is Dan Philbrick speaking, Director of the Civil Infrastructure Products. And as Eric said, we also have Tim Yaris, who's joining online here to field questions. And before we get right into the presentation, I thought we should start with what is the Dan and Dave Show, or the Dave and Dan Show, just for those that are not familiar with this. And what this was is when we were early on in Civil 3D, Dave and I and other members of the product team would do a weekly webcast, similar to what Eric's organizing here, only I guess I would say it was probably much less polished than what Eric is doing. Eric's doing a fantastic job with these webcasts. And so we did a webcast. We would meet every week for an hour, and the goal was really to inform new users on all the capabilities in Civil 3D, best practices with the product, and a lot of it was live. We're doing demonstrations and just really sharing experiences with Civil 3D. So these webcasts are in the same spirit. We definitely want to be doing the same thing with these webcasts. And so what's changed now with this? So Dave probably has a few more gray hairs. In fact, I know he does. I have a bit less hair. And unfortunately, we're not able to open up the lines, as Eric had mentioned, for live questions. But definitely ask your questions to Tim and Eric, and we'll field those questions either throughout the webcast. And if we have a few minutes at the end, what I think we'll do is Tim will maybe queue up some questions, and we'll just try to do those live at the end if we have some time. And then probably the other thing that's changed is in the Civil 3D webcast, we did a lot of live demonstrations as we went through it. Now, I'm not going to speak for Dave. I'm hoping Dave's going to be doing a lot of live demonstrations, but I think it'll be videos. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see on that from Dave. So, any comments from Dave on that? Live demos, Dave?
I think today, Dan, I'm going to be showing videos.
Well, get ready.
Just because you told me I have to.
Okay. So before we get into, so what we want to do is we've got really exciting things going on in civil infrastructure. And before we get into some of the details, in particular with InfraWorks and with Civil 3D, first of all, thank you for joining. Dave and I are really pleased to be able to present what we've been doing around civil infrastructure. I think this release, we've got some really incredible capability in the portfolio, in InfraWorks and in Civil 3D, and really looking at complete project workflows, so streamlining project workflows, enabling you to make better decisions about designs, and delivering designs that optimize the designs at lower cost or are optimum designs. And the other thing I wanted to mention is just take a minute and just talk about the overall strategy with InfraWorks and Civil 3D, because sometimes I don't think it's been crystal clear. And both products, from our perspective, are just extremely important in the Autodesk BIM portfolio. So when we're thinking about BIM for infrastructure, InfraWorks and Civil 3D are both extremely important in these workflows. So when we think about InfraWorks, we're looking at that as our BIM platform. So now, and as we build this out, becoming that overall BIM platform, in particular enabling parametric model-based design, which you're seeing in InfraWorks now, spanning from planning to design. And I'm really pleased to be able to show some of the capabilities around design. And as we move forward this year, you're going to see more and more of that design and engineering happening in InfraWorks. But in particular, it's in the context of the real world. So being able to do that design work in context, bringing in context very easily, whether it's through reality capture or through model build or just building up that context, and then doing that design work. So as I had mentioned, you're going to see some of that today, and as we move forward, more and more of that. But what's really important is just this integration with Civil 3D. And so that as I'm doing design work in InfraWorks, if I want to then move and leverage the power of Civil 3D, seamlessly being able to do that. And we look at Civil 3D as just being the best product in the world for detailed production work. So whether that's detailed design, whether that's production level outputs, what you're going to see from Dave really builds on that and just really a fantastic release in terms of that detailed production level work. So we're looking at this as a portfolio, BIM for infrastructure portfolio, where InfraWorks and Civil 3D together, along with other products, and we're focusing on InfraWorks and Civil 3D today, but you're going to see some of how we're building workflows in with Revit, Navisworks come into play, and really looking at that complete portfolio to address challenges that you have in transportation or land development or water projects. So with that, I'm gonna jump right into InfraWorks 360. Unfortunately, we have a product manager who's not able to join us today. Her name is Sarah Cunningham. Sarah has been with Autodesk and is the product manager for InfraWorks 360 now, working very closely with Dave. I'm sure we'll have a future webcast where Sarah will take you through some of the things that we're doing, but I just wanted to introduce Sarah to you. So InfraWorks 360, what's new? So great release, really happy with where we are with InfraWorks 360. What you're going to see, designing in context. So this release, more design, roadway design, bridge design. You're going to see some interesting things in what we've done with Roundabouts. Drainage design in the product now, continuing to build on that. But you're going to see more and more designing in context. And then more and more detailed engineering capabilities, which I'm going to be showing you also. So as we start to take InfraWorks from conceptual design to detailed design, you're going to see more and more detailed engineering capabilities. But partnered with that is interoperability. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of that. One is with a Revit workflow that we're doing specifically around bridge design. So really, really easily being able to move from InfraWorks into Revit for detailed design. And then also there's capability in now in the workflows now that allow you to move alignments and other data types between InfraWorks and Civil 3D. We've also introduced what we call mobility simulation, and this is really interesting. This is doing what we call person trips, so it really integrates walking, train, vehicles. So it's multimodal simulation. We've brought this complete technology into InfraWorks now, so we've really built on what we've done with traffic simulation to give you just complete mobility analysis capability. And then with every release, we're really working on just streamlining the interface. We just want to continue to make it just a very compelling interface and very easy to use. So those are the themes. And so in terms of context, Model Builder really getting fantastic use. Now Model Builder, for those who have InfraWorks 360, this is a service, this is a cloud service, and for those who are not familiar with it, this builds models automatically for you based on a location and some extent. And so we track usage of this, and this is just skyrocketing in terms of usage, in terms of Model Builder, all over the world, really. And so what we've done here is we've updated this to OpenStreetMap vector data, and then we also have more accurate terrain data. And you can see a couple images there where you can just see on that lower image where we're getting, I believe this is in Austin, we're just getting much better detail in terms of that model. And these are coming straight from Model Builder. There's no interaction from the user here. This is just context that's just coming straight from Model Builder, and then from there I'm going to be able to do more of my concepts and engineering and detailed design on that. The other thing I just want to mention is Model Builder for previous outdated versions is going to be no longer supported, so prior to the fall of 2014. So these are pretty old versions of the software right now. Model Builder will not be supported on those versions, so definitely encourage you, if you are using those versions, to get on the latest version. If for no other reason, there's just tremendous more capability now than there was in that time frame. So another capability is this new DWG overlay. So this was probably the single largest request, or maybe not the single largest, we've had many requests, but this one here is a very high request in terms of being able to get DWG information into InfraWorks. So whether I'm doing site design, whether I'm doing transportation design, I've got so much useful information in DWG that I just want to be able to have as context in InfraWorks. And so now you can overlay DWGs, drape them on your InfraWorks model, and then we've given you full control over the location of that, the scale, the rotation, so that you can just precisely place those overlays. You can control the opacity, display order, so you can really leverage DWGs in this overlay manner in your design process. And again, the key goal is to be able to leverage all of the investment that you have in DWG and also the rich set of tools that are in Civil 3D in terms of creating that information that you can use in InfraWorks. So really gotten some great feedback on this feature, so pleased about that one. Okay, it's interoperability. So the first part of this is bridge. We're jumping right into bridge. We've got some really great bridge modeling capability, but what we've done here is the ability to what we call send to Revit. And that's literally all you have to do. You select the bridge, and then behind the scene, we build the families, build up that Revit model, launch Revit, and there it is. There's the bridge, and it has all of that detail that I established in InfraWorks. So individual girders, the bearings, the detail of the structural members supporting the bridge. All of that just came through and created this model for you that you can then start doing structural detailing now in Revit. So the power of Revit is in that structural design and that structural detailing, and we just want to enable that complete workflow as easy as what you just saw on the screen there. And at this point, I just want to mention we're continuing to work on similar workflows to support other workflows with Revit. So if you're a site designer or working in an urban environment and just want really good integration in terms of building models, those are things that we're actively working on right now to just have those very seamless workflows. The other one that's really interesting is Roundabouts. So I'm going to talk more about the design, but this video moved pretty quickly. But what I just had a roundabout in InfraWorks. I selected that roundabout, and I was able to just go directly into Civil 3D. We are leveraging the exact same modeling capabilities in InfraWorks and Civil 3D. And what that means is I do my design in InfraWorks, I get precisely the same design in Civil 3D. And there's no loss of data. It's just a seamless workflow to bring that roundabout from InfraWorks into Civil 3D. And then, of course, we have the corridor, and I can continue to refine that. So I can use all the capabilities of the corridor modeling if I wanted to continue to build out this roundabout. And then the vehicle tracking functionality is available to you in that Civil 3D environment. So doing additional design based on standards, doing some analytics of traffic movement, all of that is just available to you in Civil 3D. And Dave may touch on that as he gets into Civil 3D. But a really good example of the workflows that we're working to enable between InfraWorks and Civil 3D. So detailed design and engineering capabilities. Really exciting here. Again, we've been focusing on where we've released intersections, the roadway capability and interchanges, and the team has just really been introducing additional capability as we have more complicated interchanges. So on the right-hand side there, the image you see, there is situations of merges and divergence and weaving lanes and various fairly complex or more advanced layout requirements in here. And so now you're able to create these merges and diverges. They are all, there's not a video here, but I can just directly interact with these. I can change the location, change the angles of the merge. I can either do that graphically or I can do it directly in context. So continuing to advance our highway design capabilities. And then here's an example on the roundabout. This is going to give you a little flavor of the editing. So here we've just created a roundabout. I'm able to just in context change parameters, change the diameter of the roundabout. We can change elevation either graphically or in context. Here we're changing the slope of that roundabout and the positioning of it. So very quickly getting us to an engineered concept and then bringing that straight into Civil 3D, again, for either production work or detailed design. So what I like about that is just, what you can see there is taking that design in InfraWorks, taking it as far as you want to in InfraWorks, then going into Civil 3D, doing that detailed design, doing production level deliverables in Civil 3D, and just enabling that complete workflow. So traffic simulation. So again, these are new features that I'm talking about. So in the product right now, within InfraWorks 360, we have a service. It's a traffic simulation service. And what this allows you to do is to select an area of interest. So if you were looking either at a transportation project or an urban environment, I can select an area of interest. And then we do an analysis. We have a traffic simulation component now that's part of InfraWorks. And then what's really nice here is all these results are presented back in, and I'm describing capability that's in the product right now. These results are like level of service, and some of the detailed report information are available in InfraWorks so that you can really evaluate different situations, make design changes, run the analysis, and see the impact of that on your design. And so really deep integration between design and this simulation. So here we're continuing to enhance that, and so here you can see on and off ramp support that is aligned to the work we did around the highway section just previously. Center turn lanes we've added, and then roundabout and offset roundabouts, so being able to handle those types of situations. So again, we're getting really good traction amongst users that are starting to integrate simulation into their design process. And I'm going to talk about mobility simulation in a moment. So on the bridge design front, the other piece I wanted to mention is, I talked already about Revit, and the other piece I wanted to mention is just on the lower left, we have a project that's on labs, it continues to be on labs, that is about building parametric content. It's called Project Chameleon. It uses Inventor as a parametric modeling capability to do what we're doing in these structural component designs, but we're also leveraging this in the drainage capability within InfraWorks. And so this is a labs project right now. We've continuing to refine that capability. But here, what you have here is you have very interesting parametric capability for creating like these bridge piers. These can all be customized, parametric, enabling that design, but then that information just flows into Revit in terms of the structural detailed design. In the future, you will see Project Chameleon move from labs to both support Civil 3D and InfraWorks as we finalize the plan around Chameleon. But if you haven't taken a look at Chameleon yet and you're interested in building components and parts for either Civil 3D or InfraWorks, I would definitely encourage you to take a look at that. Okay, mobility simulation. So mobility simulation, just as a little bit of background here, we did an acquisition of a smaller company that was a deep expert in simulation. Company was called Azalient, and there's still some very good resources that you can find about the type of analytics that the simulation brings to InfraWorks. What we've done is we've fully integrated this simulation capability into InfraWorks, so you now have access to this mobility simulation. And what does this allow you to do? You can look at multiple modes of transportation at one time. What I had shown you previously was really focused around traffic, so traffic simulation and the impact of changing a design on the traffic. With the full mobility simulation, you can look at different forms of transit. So it can be rail and as well as vehicles. It can take into account taxis and ride sharing. It also can take into account walking and cycling. So really looking at a transit from a person that's, say, going from a home to an office, that may be walking to a train station, perhaps taking a taxi, and then ultimately to their destination. And then from here you can look at and create animations of this to really look at these complete travel analyses. There's some really great material. If you go to the community and look at some of the new videos that we've been preparing for this, I would encourage you to take a look at that, because there's numerous examples of use of this mobility simulation. But the key here is you can really look at economic and environmental impact. So putting a train station in a particular location, what is the impact on the community? What is the impact on people getting from one location to another? So if I take we'll just run this video here. So in a similar way, you're selecting the area of interest, and then from here we're going to do mobility simulation. And so this brings us to an environment that allows us to set up the different types of transportation. You can see in here we can have buses, could have trains. It's probably a little bit hard to see there, but you can see people are walking. So you get into signal timing and crosswalk design, and how people are going to be moving around an environment on an individual basis. So so this is really exciting. You know, any kind of simulation such as this is a you know, other types of simulation. It's a very disjointed process where you might be doing some modeling and moving into a completely different environment, remodeling, trying to do simulation. Here, this is all just part of what you're getting with InfraWorks 360. Okay, and then this may be it. The last piece here, we've introduced this concept of a contextual stack, and what this does is it just really simplifies and replaces many of the individual, what we called asset cards in the past. They're context sensitive. If I were to select something in Canvas, they're dockable, they're customizable for you as a user. And the other thing we've done is we've just leveraged this throughout the entire product. So here you're just seeing an example on the right-hand side of this contextual stack in the context of a junction. But this is available now for every asset in terms of being you know, in the same form, being contextual. You can see here I can peel them apart and just really configure the user interface how I most want to present that. So so that's the contextual stack. And let's see. Okay, how do you get it? So the latest version, again, it was it's available now. You can get that through your application manager, and so you'll see notification there. You can download the update at manage.autodesk.com, and you can download it there. And then lastly, if you're new to InfraWorks, you know, InfraWorks 360 in particular, there's a free trial, fully functional, and you can download also download the trial, use it for 30 days. There's some great material to get you started with that as well. And then obviously we're here to help you you know, make sure that you're successful even just initially starting out. So that's how you can get the latest release. So I'm going to turn it over to Dave now.
Fantastic. Okay, thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'll spend, I don't know, I'll try to keep it to around 20 or so minutes. And you guys who know me will know that it's going to take more than 20 minutes. But I'll do my best. So yeah, I'm Dave Simeone, Senior Product Manager for Civil 3D. I'm really excited to introduce the 17 release. We've, you know, people have been hard at work for quite a while actually to implement the changes that you're now able to start to look at. So at a high level, we've put these into 4 kind of themes. One would be project management, other would be usability, third would be quarter modeling, and the fourth is collaboration and data exchange. So let's talk about each of those, and then what we'll do at the end is I'm going to point you in the direction of, I think, some interesting resources and some other things that you can refer to help you understand what's new in the release. So let's look at the project management area first. Hold on, let me just do something. Okay, right. So in this area, starting from the top, and I'll go into each one of these, we've got the ability now to reference styles. So you can set a central style or template and then use those across your organization. Woo. Okay, so if I'll go through each of these individually instead of spending time on the first one. So, and I apologize, these videos are a little bit tutorial-y, if that's an actual word. I'm going to say it is though. But basically what we're able to do on the ability to reference external styles is I can set create a template. So this will have all of my Civil 3D styles, also my command settings, a number of things that are typically set at a CAD manager or organizational level. Then I can reference those into any drawing. I can also include those as references within other templates. So if I'm working for a specific customer who has a certain style that is demanded, I can use that. I can also have my organizational standards. So when I reference that in, anybody who then creates any Civil 3D objects has all of that kind of centrally defined style content available. So like in this case, when I reference that template, which will be accessed up under your Manage ribbon, and when I reference this in, okay, I'm just going to kind of step it forward a little bit right here. So I can just pick the template that I want. In this case, I've created that style or that template, saved it. Now it's going to reference that. And now or like I said, all of the styles within that are now available to me. And there's some flag. You'll notice there's some notification in there that says these are actual reference templates. I have control over whether I can or cannot edit them. But basically at this point they work like any Civil 3D template. So every style that every object that I create is going to reference those styles. So in this case I've set it to use the city standard, and I'm going to just jump forward a little bit. And if I go back to the template, and in this case we've changed that city standard to be yellow with a different line type. Now when I go back into my master, that template can be updated, so you'll see that it needs to be updated. And when I update it, anything that has changed at my central location is now going to be reflected in this or any other drawing that's working from that. So it's a really easy way for you to conform or have everyone in your organization conform to your design standards, and it's a really easy way for, as a CAD manager, for you to push those standards or changes to those standards back out to everyone in your organization. That was, I think, in the top 10 on our idea station list. So that's really had, that's one of those things that's really changing the way people can work. Okay. Next one that I'm going to talk about here. Let's make sure that's, yeah. Next one is this, and I'll go through this one quickly, but basically when you're working with objects in Civil 3D and you create a data reference, we currently basically give you the ability to actually physically cache that object in the drawing. And up until 2017, we've done this with all of the objects with the exception of surfaces. And now with 17, we now have given you that option as well. Essentially what you can do is you can make a decision when you make a deref. Do I want the object to physically be stored in the drawing, or do I just want to create a reference or pointer back to its source? And there's pros and cons to both, but we now give you that option. On the I'll give you the negative first. The negative is if you actually store the surface in all of your drawings, your file size is going to increase, all right? Because now that physical object is saved in every file that you're referencing. The flip side of it, though, is because the object is there. Actually, I'll just kind of jump forward. Because the object is there, we now will find that your file open can be much faster. In other words, right now when I open that drawing, anything that is going to be looking at that surface and updating, such as a chord or a grading object, you're going to find that those objects will do not have to sync back to a surface. So it's going to make it so the file could open much faster. The other thing is if I give my file to somebody downstream and they don't have all of those references, I'm still going to be able to see the surface. If I bring it up to BIM 360 Blue, or if I put it up onto A360, just the file without the derefs, I'm going to have visual fidelity. I'm not going to lose any of those graphics. Okay, so wherever I save this file, whether I have that source data or not, I'm going to be able to see the object. So that's a big change in capability. The next one is this ability to organize your data shortcuts into folders. So we get a lot of projects in here for validation and testing and research, and once you get into, I think, real-world projects, you'll find that there's a really large number of objects. Right, it can be any number of surfaces, alignments, pipe networks, and so on. So to date, these have all really been like a flat list under each object node within Prospect or in your DREF manager. So we've allowed you now to do is build folders. So you can build and organize any of the objects into any folders that you want. So in this case, we now have a design folder. So all of my design surfaces, I want to now store up under that design tree. And then maybe anything that's going to be related to an existing ground surface, I want to put all of those into that folder. Right, and we can do the same thing for all of our objects or alignments and pipe networks, etc. And from there, what we're able to then do is we've now also changed, I'm going to jump up just a little bit here. We've also changed how you can interact. So I can now, as I work with all of this data, kind of go to the next one here. Right, so that's the first phase. I can adjust how I organize them within my project. Then the other part of it, though, is how do I interact with them? So historically, when working with a DREF, you had basically the one-at-a-time type of an approach. So if I have, when I create a reference, it was one object at a time. So simple if I've got, one alignment, one surface, or small project. But if I've got any number of surfaces or alignments, really cumbersome to create references for all of those. So what we've done is you can now multi-select any number of references. You can right-click and create references, or you can just drag them into the drawing canvas. It's going to use your current style and label set. So in this case, you can see, these three surfaces have been DREFs for those three surfaces have been created in one step. Same thing where I can actually select a whole folder. So I could select that phase 1 folder, that phase 2 folder, and anything within that is going to be dragged in as well. Right? So really easy now. This is actually one of those, I hate to call it minor or subtle, but I mean, it's a relatively small UI impact, but it has a pretty significant impact on people's productivity and efficiency. Certainly from an aggravation standpoint, this is one of those things that has it helps people move along much more quickly. It makes people just, I think, more effective in their daily work. Okay, the next one let's talk about is the ability to create DREFs or shortcuts for a corridor. So what we looked at on this was, the quarter tends to be one of the largest files that you create, right? Because to build the really everything that's going to influence the quarter. So you need the surface, you need the alignment profile or alignments and profiles, you need any of the base, the features or line work that you're going to target, all those things that the quarter needs to make its design decisions. Right, so then we're left in a situation where if I want to leverage the value in the quarter, so if I want to make sections, calculate volumes or extract strings from it, propose surfaces. I'm in a situation where I need to either, basically I need to work in that quarter file, or I need to XREF the quarter file, which doesn't necessarily give me all of those options. So the best way to address that was to actually give you the ability to create a DREF for a corridor. So in this case, what you end up with is essentially a read-only version of the quarter, but it includes all of its logic, and you end up with a much smaller file. So in this case, I've got my quarter. It pulls in automatically anything it needs, specifically the related to the baseline. So in this case, all of the different alignments and profiles that we use in the construction of the corridor. At this point, it's a corridor. I can't edit it, but I can, if I pick it, I can calculate materials. I can extract strings. Or in this case, I can create my my sample lines for any of the baselines and then create my my section sheets. So in this case, I've kind of sped this up a little bit. Effectively, what I'm doing here is using the DREF corridor, and I'm creating my section sheets for that entire corridor. Right. So again, net result, I can work with much smaller files without losing any of that quarter value, and I can also provide the quarter in a way to anyone downstream who needs read-only access without any risk of somebody making unwanted edits or errors or changes to that quarter. Right? That's one of the big, probably, if I was to come back to you and say, what are the things that are going to have the biggest impact on my production workflow, I think it's that. Right? I think this opens up all different types of approaches that you can use. Sorry, that kind of jumped forward here on me. Okay, so on the usability front, kind of two things, and actually both of these have, or actually I should say the no site option was something that we've delivered initially with the 2016 Productivity Pack 2, but we've improved it slightly and added it into the ribbon for 17, and then delivery pressure pipe content, which is new to 17, but it's something that we are targeting for delivery on the 16 release. So on the feature line front, there's actually a couple things, right? One of them is this idea of no site feature lines. So the thing you'll find here, right, feature lines are historically, feature lines have been really where you have no control whether they're going to interact vertically or not, right? So if I create a feature line within a site, if one feature line crosses another, it's going to take the elevation from one and apply it to the other, and add an elevation node. The way people have worked around that is they've broken things onto many different sites, which then becomes fairly cumbersome for you to have to manage. So we've taken kind of the same approach that we have for alignments, and essentially allow you to create your feature lines on a no site site. It's probably the best way to describe it. So for you, the main benefit here is if I now have feature lines that are crossing or sharing vertices, they're not going to interact elevationally. There's some other improvements. You don't have where sites are going to be subdividing, breaking up. So it effectively gives you I think like in this case where we're snapping these feature lines that are both on this, in a no site condition, and you're not going to have any change to their vertical. So it's that type of simplification. So it's almost 3D polyline-like with all of the benefits of working in feature lines. Okay. The next one is we've been working with, we've got a project on labs which is called Chameleon, which has been up there for quite some time now. There's been questions, I think, publicly about, what's the future of that, but Chameleon has a very bright future. It's something that we're actively developing. The first areas where we focused on with it was in the creation of content for gravity and pressure. And now it's expanding out for civil structure content. But we've actually used that tool to build content from the AWWA libraries. And so what you'll see here is PVC content and a number of different fittings and appurtenances that we've now modeled in Chameleon, and now we're adding into our system. So we've got PVC content. I'm just going to kind of jump forward. We've got PVC parts, so elbows, T's that are all included, gate valves, and also things such as hydrants. So we've expanded that library quite significantly, and then all of that is now included directly in Civil 3D 2017. The one thing I'll note on this is it's imperial only content. We really need to, rather than just doing an imperial to metric numeric translation, we really need to understand what are the requirements for delivery of metric content. So this is where we start talking about metric content being part of country kits or delivered in some other way. But anyway, so I think that for me the two key points I'd make is, one, we've got this expanded content that's included within Civil 3D out of the box, and then the other part of it is that this is content that you can build with Chameleon. So you can easily build content, and this applies both to gravity and pressure. Okay, let's jump into modeling. So I'm going to jump into each. So the first one I'll talk about is this ability to use a feature line as a quarter baseline. This really allows you to build quarters for, I think people have been doing this or working around this by using alignments and profiles in many cases for a number of years. But really what we've enabled you to do is generate or essentially use any feature line as a baseline within a corridor. So in this case, this is kind of done to model this parking lot and alignments that they're going to lead you into this parking lot. But so we've got, in this case, all of my vertical is being designed in the feature lines that are going to represent the different roads and travel ways and lanes within this. So in some cases, in this case, it was actually easy for the person to design this as feature lines as opposed to alignment profile. The other case would be, I'm doing a parking lot and I'm doing my edge of travel ways, or my edge of parking lot, curb and gutter, or maybe it's a retaining wall and I want all the logic of the corridor, but I want to design it as a feature line. So in this case, what we're going to do, actually let me step back that a teeny bit here. So when I build, you'll see I now have options for using a feature line as my baseline. Okay, so in this case, you then have all of your typical control that you would have when you build out the corridor. As the corridor is built out, I can then continue to expand and edit the corridor. So when you look, in this case, I'm adding another baseline, and this is going to be this central parking area. Right, and we just keep building this out. So in this case here, I'm going to model out the cul-de-sac, right? And here I've got feature lines. We're snapping those to the end of the corridor, and that's where I'm getting the elevations. And then I'm going to use just standard feature line editing options to add high-low point, basically to model the elevations around the edge of the cul-de-sac. Right, so in other words, I'm locking the elevations at the start and end, and then I've got a slope in and out of 1%, and that's going to find my low point, which is now filled in, and then I can just build out the quarter piece by adding this into the quarter as another baseline. So I can add baselines. I can also define my offset baselines as feature lines. So tremendously helpful as far as modeling out complicated things or using corridors in alternative ways. So once we get up to the end of that, you can kind of see how that's all been modeled. Basically, all of that would have been historically done as alignment profile, but now we're able to do that very easily by using feature lines. So it gives you an alternative way to design site features, retaining walls, parking lots, and then even on subdivision type roads, it's an alternative way that you can work. Okay. Next thing, and this is another tool that was initially implemented for Civil 3D 2016 Productivity Pack 2, but we've now given you, new tools to extract strings or feature lines from a corridor. Historically, you kind of had a pretty difficult way of getting to the granularity that you needed to select what you wanted. So we now give you that option, much more control over what you're going to select. The other key things is you can control the site, you can control the style layer, you can control whether you want pay items to be included, you can automatically smooth all of your feature lines around curves. We also give you the ability to connect feature lines that are adjacent. So if you've got, for instance, feature lines that break right now at the locations of region start end, those are going to be connected. So a number of different controls, and then again finally you've got the ability to have these remain dynamic to the corridor. So if the corridor updates, the feature line will update. So really helpful for delivery of production documentation. Also, this is one of the common ways that people want to be able to send civil or corridor model information out for machine control. Okay, and then the other piece I'll hit here is we've been working quite a bit on how can we resolve corridor cleanup on corridors. Historically, we've had what we call bow ties when the corridor projects into an acute corner or angle. So in this case, right now, just so you know, this is limited to supporting corridor shapes. So things where we have a fixed width, and that's something that we're expanding over time. So in this case, we've got a tight right angle in the edge of our parking lot, and we're going to build out something, where there's a sidewalk, and then kind of an apronway or grassway between the start and end of it. So when you look at the resulting corridor for that, you'll see that the corridor now knows how to clean that corner up. And this is going to also address the modeling around the outer angle. So again, it's something that, as I said, is targeted towards corridor shapes, and it's something that we'll continue to expand out going forward. And then I think this is one of my last items right here is we're starting to build out further incorporation of object model information or property data into things that we can extract from the corridor. So we've had this ability to extract corridor solids in Civil 3D now for some time. What we've added is some additional options when you're initially extracting the corridor, but in this case, more importantly, what we've now added is the ability to automatically associate property data or associative information. So things about the corridor, things about the subassembly shapes, and then also general information that you may want to add. So in this case, when we extract the solids, we're going to put those solids into a new drawing, and I'm just going to kind of fast track this out here. Okay, so I've got the corridor now. It's in this Civil 3D drawing. Jump too far, right? So it's in the Civil 3D drawing as new shapes. It brought all of that property data into this form right here. So if I pick on the properties, I have access to that information. But more importantly, if I was to bring this now into something like Navisworks, where I've got all of these solids, all of that property data is going to travel along with it, right? So if I look at pave 1, pave 2, these are those solids, and I can look at the properties and whatever was defined when I built those. So again, my corridor shape volumes, right? So the volume for that particular shape, the name of the quarter that the object came from, the shape code name, all of that information that somebody downstream may find valuable. Okay, and then I think the last thing is on collaborative and data exchange. Dan already talked about things such as being able to share the Roundabout and directly read that into Civil 3D. Can't stress enough just how valuable that is. Sorry, kind of jumped back one here. Okay, so just how valuable that is as people start to initiate a project in InfraWorks and then want to further refine that in Civil 3D. To be able to bring that core Roundabout in with zero loss is just a tremendously valuable tool. So in summary, right, there's a lot there. Really, we're really excited about launching this. We've been able to knock off, I think, 28 of the Idea Station top priorities, and that's an area that we're continuing to look at as far as what we work on next. A number of other things that we've got planned for the year. So the other part of this is we've built ourselves a solid platform that we'll be able to build onto. So with that, Eric, I will pass it back on to you.
Great job, both of you guys. I'm going to share a couple of more slides. And are you guys seeing my screen okay? All right, I'm not hearing you, so I'm going to assume that everything's good.
Yeah, we can see it, Eric.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
Can see it.
So as far as the new features and some more information on those, there are 2 websites you can go to that that contain videos demonstrating all the new features, or many, if not all of the new features that Dave and Dan talked about. You'll also see these links. If you don't want to feverishly write down the links, they're going to come in the follow-up emails that you're going to get on the GoToWebinar from the GoToWebinar system. So these links will be in that email if you want to follow those and watch some really cool videos. And here's a listing of some of the different videos that are available up there. So definitely check that out. These are special pages dedicated to what's new in both products, so they won't be there forever. So get them while they're hot. And then finally, don't forget that we have our next webcast, which is on May 4th, Star Wars Day. And George Hatch is going to be talking about UAS or drone workflows using lots of different Autodesk products and how you can get from that drone capture to real usable, workable data in your Autodesk products. So with that, I want to thank everyone for coming. It was really cool to be able to host the webcast from down here at the DBIA conference. Thank you, Dave and Dan, for bringing the show back. What a great, I saw the very first comment on the questions panel was someone said they feel 12 years younger by watching this. So thanks so much for doing this. I know even for me at the time, I was a customer, and I remember those days, and it really is kind of special to have it happen again. So it's really appreciated that you guys came back and did this again for us. So keep checking back on the community and seeing what's going on there. And until next time, thanks and have a great day.